But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
People will return to the people, and so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you and slay you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men, with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men, you are men.
Welcome to the Rock Worldwide Show here on WSHO Sunshine 800 AM. Trey Roberts here with you, jumping in here just a couple of minutes late. Hopefully you're still with us and glad you joined us. And got a great program for you. Going to jump right in with the news of the week. Of course, if you want to be a part of the program, you can give us a call at 504-527-0800. You can go to WSHO.com. Jump into the chat room there. Plenty of room. Jump in there. Make yourself known, heard, speak, ask your question, make your comment, whatever the case may be. Let's get into this. So, coming from Megyn Kelly's Minute, American News Minute, shout out to her and her entire team at the Devil May Care Media. The Durham report came out. This is one that I've been waiting on for a long time. The Durham report came out this week, and it's way worse than what you're hearing. I mean, the Durham report found, as we suspected and in a lot of cases pretty much knew, that the Hillary Clinton campaign completely fabricated all of the charges. It was a smear campaign on the part of the Hillary Clinton campaign against Donald Trump. And she used her influence as the former Secretary of the State and her husband's influence as the former President of the United States to try and peddle influence through the Clinton Foundation and to skip all of the investigations and all of the illegal activity of the Clinton political machine. And this goes all the way up to the Obama administration. They knew. There was absolutely the flimsiest of evidence that the FBI and the DOJ had to even commission any kind of preliminary investigation, let alone to basically wiretap Carter Page, to go after and basically entrap George Papadopoulos. The Trump campaign under the Obama administration, at the behest of the Hillary Clinton campaign spied on Donald Trump, and every single person, Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, everybody that was basically drag-netted into some kind of process crime where they were convicted. No one, there were plenty, I think there were like 25 convictions that came about as a result of the Russia investigation. Not a single indictment or conviction came about as a result of, or because, or due to Russia collusion, Russian interference, being a Russian asset to Donald Trump. These were process crimes, meaning that these were crimes that once these people started being investigated by the federal government, as most of these people in Washington, D.C., if they are investigated in the strictest of senses, all of them have avoided taxes in some way. They've evaded some kind of taxes. They've done something that is an ethics violation. These people are corrupt at the highest levels. And it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. The problem is that right now, all of our institutions are captured by the left, by the progressive left, the activist progressive left. If the next president of the United States, whoever it is, if it's Trump, if it's DeSantis, I don't care if it's Nikki Haley, whoever it is, Tim Scott, the next Republican president has to go into the federal bureaucracy and wholesale shut entire departments down. I mean, fire the majority of the bureaucrats that are working inside of these institutions, because there is institutional capture. And look, this goes all the way back. Again, this predates Trump. This goes all the way back to the Obama administration under Lois Lerner's leadership. They used the IRS to go after Tea Party and liberty-minded and Christian and pro-life and Jewish organizations who were trying to get 501c3s to become non-for-profit organizations so that they could go out and raise money to become activist organizations against the left. And under the Obama administration, right around the time that Mitt Romney was running, right before Benghazi and everything was coming out with the Clinton campaign and how they completely, they allowed the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, and then we lost our special operators in Benghazi, left them there to basically die, as we were illegally running guns to the Syrian rebels through Turkey, via Yemen into Libya, and from Libya into Turkey, Turkey into northern Syria to the rebels. Because the Obama administration wanted to try and oust Bashir Assad. This all started under the Obama administration. This is what the Obama administration began to do. They began to place all of their loyalists within the intelligence agencies, the Defense Department, the intelligence agencies, the FBI, the CIA, because these people transcend presidential terms in office. Obama was there for 8 years, but Hillary didn't get elected. But the people that were put into positions of power and were loyal to the woke critical race theory objectives of the Obama administration. Again, I think it's always worth being reminded. Barack Obama was mentored by Derek Bell, Professor Derek Bell, the man who founded the idea of critical race theory at Harvard. When Obama was at Harvard getting his law degree, that was his mentor. So not only is he an Alinskyite, Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, community organizing, Wade Radke, SEIU, Acorn, the whole nine, the whole 9 yards. But his academic pedagogy is critical race theory from Derek Bell. All of the Trayvon Martin, all of the hands up, don't shoot Ferguson stuff, all of that stuff was under the Obama administration. All of that re-racializing of our society came from the Obama administration. As they began to look through things from the critical race theory lens. That everything was systemic. Every disparity. If you see a disparity in anything, especially if it's a racial disparity, then it's racism. If blacks are underperforming in the school system is systemically racist. If blacks are overrepresented in the prison system, then the prison system is inherently racist. If blacks are not getting into Ivy League schools at a particular quota or rate, then those schools are racist. And all of these institutions, the only thing that they know to do is to go out and self-flagellate themselves, admit their systemic racism and guilt of being white and successful and European and Western. And all of this started under, this is why people would say all the time that it feels like the Obama government administration supporters, they hate everything. They hate Christians, they hate white people, they hate, this was said on a regular basis, that it just felt like something had changed. And what changed was race became the essential lens by which to view everything, because that's the lens by which Barack Obama came up, cut his teeth, and understood that race essentialism, viewed through the lens of critical race theory and Derek Bell, all of his theories and his mentorship, it would be the way that you could ultimately bring about change. And as Michelle Obama said, Barack knows that he's going to have to change our history. He's going to have to change our values. And as Barack Obama said, we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And he succeeded. So if you don't recognize your country today, then all you have to do is go back to 2007 and listen to then Senator Obama, then candidate Obama, pre-president Obama. And he said, I think it's good when you take and you spread the wealth around. It gives more people a chance. Reparations is not a new thing. The idea that this guy believed that if you took from those who have and give to those who don't, that is good. He said Marxism was good. He was openly Marxist. In his own books, he talks about how in college he was influenced by structural feminists, by queer Marxists. These were the people that he was drawn to. And remember, he has no BIPOC blood in him. His mama is white. His daddy is Kenyan. And Kenya was never a part of the slave trade to the West. So he's got no claim to the black and indigenous people of color claims that their ancestors came out of slavery. Barack Obama could just as well have identified as a white person as he decided to identify as a black person. But I don't know any black people that have ancestors that come directly, first generation from Africa, who consider themselves to be African American. Especially if they only half African and the other half white. So we have yet to have a quote unquote black president. All of this stuff came out, and in the Durham report this week, we see that beyond a shadow of a doubt, the DOJ and the FBI failed to uphold strict fidelity to the law. When they investigated the connections between the 2016 Trump campaign and Russia, strict fidelity of the law was thrown out. And the mainstream media makes this a nothing burger after. And then on top of this, Mueller knew the moment he was tapped to do his investigation, he knew this. He knew that there was nothing. And yet for 3 years and for tens of millions of dollars, this former FBI chief, this supposed Marine, man of honor, bull crap. This man is a scumbag. Mueller, Comey, Strzok, Page, the whole group of them. And I forget who there's a guy right now who should go away forever, and he's a CNN analyst. The Obama administration weaponized governmental institutions against not only just like ordinary American citizens via the IRS, but then the intelligence agencies against the duly elected, constitutionally elected president of the United States and his campaign and everybody that worked with him. This should be something that all Americans everywhere should be locked arm in arm in, and we should be demanding that heads roll. Because that door opened up in Trump's first term. What we see happening to him now under the Biden administration and how they are going after former President Trump to try to and in a way, listen, I believe they think that he's the only Republican candidate that Joe Biden can beat because Trump himself is so polarizing. Do what you can do to go and get your hands on the Durham report. Read as much as you can read about the Durham report. According to the freepress.com, VFP.com, Special Counsel John Durham came out with his report of the Russiagate era and found that indeed there wasn't much there. The FBI acted badly. The FBI and the mainstream media took everyone for a ride. And most importantly, the P-tape source really did just make the whole thing up. The FBI released a statement saying basically they already fixed all of this. Quote, the conduct in 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason the current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, close quote. And the mainstream media, which has never apologized, and hasn't apologized for making us learn so many fake Russian spy names is actually calling Durham a bust. They're saying, according to the New York Times, that he failed to deliver. The Atlantic said, a sinister flop. I mean, you basically got one exception to the party line, Jake Tapper on CNN, and he said of the report on his primetime show, quote, it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump. Close quote. Now, I know pretty much everybody that's listening to this right now didn't need any of this to know the conclusions. But I believe that all of us today are frustrated that on top of this, there should have been people perp walked. We should see people in handcuffs being drug out of their houses, being drug out of the J. Edgar Hoover FBI building in handcuffs. We should see indictments and arrests for everybody that was involved with this. And I'm talking about FISA court judges, I'm talking about lawyers, I'm talking about agents, investigators, whoever. This was a coup. This was an attempt. Forget January 6th. January 6th wasn't an attempt to overthrow the government. This was an attempt to undermine the duly elected President of the United States of America throughout his term in office. This will go down as the biggest political scandal in the history of the United States, bigger than the JFK assassination, bigger than Lincoln's assassination. Especially if Donald Trump doesn't win election in this next go round within a year and a half. And while all of this is going on, you have the Biden administration that looks like it just squashed the IRS's Hunter Biden investigation. A supervisor at the IRS is alleging political interference into their investigation of Hunter Biden's taxes. This, according to the Wall Street Journal. The whistleblower says that his entire investigative team was removed from the Hunter Biden tax investigation, and that the order came directly from the Justice Department, and that it happened weeks after the Biden legal team met with the Justice Department. So at this point, what is there to say about the wayward Prince Hunter? I mean, he's not the first son we deserve, but he's the first son that we have. But he's also probably the first son that we deserve. This is the corruption that the American people are just sick and tired of. And yet, when you look at the polls that came out this week, the prospect of an actual election between Biden and Trump or Biden and DeSantis looks fairly even, with it basically at a tie. But the Republican primary is not so even. And this is why CNN is still melting down over their Trump town hall, in which the audience laughed and cheered for the Donald. In fact, this week, Christiana Amanpour talked about how she hopes the audience's trust in CNN is shaken but not shattered. And CNN media writer Oliver Darcy was scolded by his boss for his overly emotional post-town hall display, yet he continues to tweet about what has become #TownHallGate. They're panicked. And with good reason, because, well, Trump is truly back, baby. But if you remember CNN's ratings during the Trump presidency, then you know that that quivering you see among the talking heads now might not, be rage so much as thrill, but more like the quivering you hear about in romance novels. There's an unholy but unstoppable union, a love hidden but never extinguished kind of shake. Yes, yes, it's the story of Donald J. Trump and cable news. They need him, and he wants them. Meanwhile, Rudy Giuliani has been sued by a former employee who alleges a bunch of really gross sexual comments and behaviors from the former New York City mayor. And also that Giuliani and Trump were selling presidential pardons. I mean, if I'm a betting man, okay, maybe. But probably not. Stakes, diplomas, pardons. I mean, if the man can stamp it with a Trump label, it's probably for sale. But again, people can make accusations all day long. But at this point, do you understand? It doesn't matter. For the people who support President Trump and have seen what this man has had to endure, and yet is going to still go out there and attempt to become the president of the United States again, he is single-handedly fighting on behalf of the American people, fighting against the institutional capture that we see in the media and the Democrat Party. And you don't even have to like President Trump. I hate where our American politics are. I really do. I love the idea of our constitutional republic. As someone who has studied our government, our system of government, the founding, what the founders believed, what they hoped for, what they intended, the idea of America is a beautiful thing. The history is not perfect. It's not pristine in any sense of the imagination. The men and women who founded this country were people of their time. But they had big ideas, and they had big hopes, and big goals, and big dreams, and they were audacious enough to believe that they could change the course of human history. And I think that they have. 200 and almost 40 years after the founding of this great country, it's just amazing to look at. But looking ahead, it does make you stop and think and wonder, like, how much longer can this thing hold up? Let's go to the chat room real quick. SG over in the chat room says this from former FBI agent testifying before the House, quote, Agent O'Boyle, it doesn't solve it, but the FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong, and we are all examples of that. Michael NM says, FBI as well as DOJ is just an extension of the organized crime family infesting the White House. Currently, yes. But when Trump was there, obviously it wasn't an extension. It was an extension of the Obama administration. Let's see, what else came out this week? The Biden administration sort of took it was weird. They took a victory lap as the border surged, continued in wake of Title 42's expiration, which is so weird because it didn't help anything. This week you have Senator Dianne Feinstein, who tells reporters, like, Dianne Feinstein, the Democratic senator from California, she apparently didn't even know that she was absent for 3 months as she battled shingles, and she's close to 90, I believe. And then oh my God, if you haven't heard Fetterman's questioning of, I think, banking officials or something this week, it's like, what is he talking about? Between Feinstein, Fetterman, and Biden, like, can the Democrats find anybody that can piece together a coherent sentence? Take a quick look at the comments. Not sure what Stephanie Roberts was talking about, but his wife and children do. All right, we'll put that there. Whatever that meant. Maybe she'll make some more comments. Fox News announced this week in the cratering of their ratings in their primetime lineup, they're reportedly, the Drudge Report scooped their announcement and reported that they're revamping their primetime lineup. They're going to move Sean Hannity from the 9 to the 8 o'clock spot where Tucker was. Looks like they're getting rid of Laura Ingraham. They're going to promote Jesse to the 9, Jesse Waters to the 9, and then Gutfeld to 10, so they're moving him up an hour. So we'll have to see how this goes. Most people like Sean Hannity, but they don't go to Sean Hannity for the same reasons that people are going to Tucker Carlson. So hopefully Fox News continues to get bludgeoned, because they have completely betrayed their viewership. And look, this goes back many years ago. I tried to tell people that were loyal to a news agency like Fox News, that they are a conservatively biased opinion organization, except for a very few components that are actually news. But the news side of things is no different than any other news organization, in that they are liberal and they come from the elite, coastal elite journalism schools. So they get educated from the same places. And yes, your talking head opinion pundits might be conservative or Republican or libertarian, but those people comment on the news. They don't report news. But this seems to be missed, and now it's showing itself. The Murdochs, Rupert and his son Lachlan, they're in it for the money. And yeah, they might get a lot of subscriptions on cable, but advertisers didn't want to advertise with Tucker because of the things that he said and were reported to have said. I'm wearing a shirt today that comes from Kelly J's website. If you go to adult, oh man, what's the website? adulthumanfemale.com. I think it's her website. She's got a shirt today that's it's got the definition of a man. Man. Adult human male. So I'm rocking my man shirt today. And speaking of the gender issues, Sports Illustrated is facing some backlash. You know, as a young man, I had a favorite issue with Kathy Ireland on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. For whatever reason, in my male mind, if you do a Google search with Kathy Ireland Sports Illustrated cover, I don't know what year that particular issue of Sports Illustrated was, but it was early in the years of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And they would put supermodels in bathing suits inside that particular edition. I just remember as a teenage boy, man, if you could get your hands on a copy of that particular Sports Illustrated, that was gold. I mean, it was so valuable. And now, Sports Illustrated is putting fat girls, and they put a trans pop star, Kim Petras, who before calling her him, hers, them, she's, her, itself, Kim, I think it was like Tony. They put a man, not even a good looking man, not even a well fit man, they put a man dressed like a woman on the cover of Sports Illustrated's swimsuit edition. Target's out there selling bathing suits for girls with pockets for penises so you can tuck your junk. What the hell, guys? I mean, can we really boycott every single company that decides to make an attempt to groom our young people or to... Oh, gotcha, roger that. Barack. Yeah. But then that, okay, so the greats, that makes her the first black and indigenous first lady. But thank you for the clarity there, Miss Stephanie. And then it appears as though here's Bud Light. Bud Light's, in its continued fallout. You can't give away Bud Light right now. Then Miller Lite comes out and does some kind of lecture us about we should respect the women who are brewers and their contributions to making beer, and how putting beautiful women in bathing suits to sell beer was bad-ish. And so everybody needs to find the bad-ish on the internet and posters and mail it back into Miller Lite, and they'll turn bad-ish into good-ish, meaning like fertilizer that they can give to grow the barley and the hops that go into the beer, especially female breweries. What the heck, Miller Lite? Again, these examples need to be like, I don't know, like they need to be, you need to recognize them for the foolishness that they're doing. But at the same time, like, if Bud Light can lose as much money as it did with its foolishness, then like all these other companies, as soon as we hear that they're doing something along these lines, we're just going to have to stop giving them our money and make them hurt to realize that when you go woke, you're going to go broke. You're not getting our money anymore. And I don't know. We may not be able to. We're gonna have to create like an alternative economy or something. Let's go to the Table Cafe phone lines and line 1. Welcome to the Rock Worldwide Show.
Good morning, Trey.
Hey, Rusty, what's going on, brother?
I got two things. First one, I'll go quick. I got time for the second one, too. I don't think the Durham report is necessarily going to put Trump in the White House. The media put Biden in the White House when he was in the basement for 8 months.
Correct.
And they're likely to do it again. And so as long as the media keeps hitting them with one issue after the next, I would say to DeSantis, get into the race because Trump might not last. And so, again, I like Trump, but I think that we have to have somebody on hand that can win in 2024.
Well, look, real quick to that comment. I do think that there is something that why would you go, and this is the way Bill Maher put it, and I think there's something to it. I think it's oversimplification, but I think it's a good point at the same time. Why would you go listen to a cover band when you can still go see the actual band play their greatest hits? So at this point, DeSantis seems a little bit like a cover band of Trump, and I get that you're not going to get the foolish tweets and some of the bombastic behavior of Trump. But why would you go to basically Trump's? If you like DeSantis, DeSantis wouldn't be DeSantis if it wasn't for Trump. So, and DeSantis is unproven on the national scale, on the national scene yet. So, I don't know. It does appear, according to some reports, that it's this week that he's going to go out and announce. In fact, the Free Press, VFP.com is reporting the New York Times says that there was a call with donors yesterday afternoon, meaning on Thursday, and Florida's governor said that only he could beat Trump. Basically, this is what DeSantis said. You basically have three people at this point that are credible in this whole thing: Biden, Trump, and me. And I think of those three, two have the chance to get elected president: Biden and me, based on all the swing state data. So, yeah, it looks like DeSantis is going to get in. I hope the two of them go just pound each other during the Republican primary. I really do.
Well, I hope I have the contrary point of view. I hated, the thing I hated most about Trump is that he had no respect for his competitors in the Republican Party. He expected them to be loyal to him after he got the nomination, and he expects the same today. He can be as treacherous and harsh to his competitors in the Republican Party who are campaigning. I think that's bad presumption. To me, that's just plain wicked. That's not just bad politics. That's wicked. But on the other hand, I like Trump in other ways. So, again, I'm hoping Trump will find a way to get in, but I think there should be a second person there who can win. The other thing you mentioned about Biden, you were talking about race earlier. I don't know if I'm sure you did, heard the comments, I think it was Howard University, that Biden made about white supremacy is the biggest danger this country has. And it seemed to construe a little more than just a few people who are call themselves supremacists, because I don't know one person in my life who was like that. But it seemed to reach over to all white people. That he's creating a situation of great division and trying to instill in black people not only a paranoia and the suspicions, but a disdain for white people. And I think, that's one reason I can't wait to see this guy get out, Biden, because he's creating division and hatred and stuff like that. So, one more thought with that, if I can. A few weeks ago, there were two young men who shot a maintenance worker here in New Orleans or in Kenner, and they said they went out just to kill white people. I've heard this on a couple of different shows, but nothing local. And that's the type of feelings that Biden is feeding into the black community. I'm hoping the black community can see past this, but as long as there are people like Joe Biden feeding that into the minds of large black populations, I think he's creating a real possible, more than just division, he's creating a possible situation here in the United States. So let's say it's that.
Well, a couple of things. So first of all, I don't. What was the thing you said, Rusty, before the Biden race thing? It was your second point.
Oh, you mean regarding DeSantis?
No, after DeSantis.
That was it. That Biden went to Howard University.
Ah, yes. What I wanted to say to you was, as far as the white supremacy things go, you have to understand they've changed, as progressives do, they've changed the definition of what white supremacy is. So, yes, you're going to seem like, you're going to, let me think if I can nuance this a little bit. And I'm not defending it, but I'm just trying to give some color to it, pun intended. The idea of white supremacy is no longer white people running around in hoods, burning crosses, KKK. It's no longer the Leander Perez politicians openly calling people, names type of white supremacy. White supremacy now is viewed from the left as majority institution. So if there is basically Western civilization, because it comes from Europe, it is white supremacy is the same thing as whiteness. So when you hear them talk about whiteness or you hear them talk about white supremacy, it's just the idea that white people as 60-something% of the population are always going to be basically the majority of institutions. And so therefore, that's considered to be white supremacy. So it's, you have to take from these institutions, or you have to tear down from these institutions and then give equity. No longer do they talk about equality. Everything is about equity. So think about like when you're home. The only part of your home that you actually own, we call it equity. Until, like when you have debt. Until the home is completely paid off, then you own it outright. But the part that you own versus the part that you owe, that's your equity stake. So it's the same thing with stocks. Stocks are often called equities. So when they are out there talking about white supremacy and equity, what they are saying is that the white majority of whatever institution that they're railing on, they want to deconstruct it and they want to give away a greater percentage based on a quota system to people that they otherwise feel have been disenfranchised by that system or by that institution. And only because of the demographics of it. But according to the 13% of the population that's black and the 60-something% of the population that's white, every institution is going to be majority white. Therefore, everything is white supremacy, because that's the lens by which this critical race theory look at everything through the lens of race essentialism. So, not defending it, but that's what they're talking about, and we just need to be clear-headed on what they're talking about. And what I hated about that speech was this moron said that he was here speaking at a black HBCU. The term HBCU is historically black college and university. It has black in it, and this moron said it's a black HBCU. It's like saying the Sahara Desert. The Sahara just means desert, so you don't say Sahara Desert, you just say the Sahara. As opposed to what, a white HBCU? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So again, he can't put these sentences together. And then the last thing you talked about, what was the last part?
One was an example of what's going on, perhaps in the mind of black people.
Oh, yeah. No, this is something, Rusty, that I've been talking about for a while. And I got another caller, so I appreciate you giving us a shout. The mainstream media has been terrorizing the black community, going all the way back. I don't want to give Joe Biden that much credit. I don't want to credit him that he's the one that's causing and seeding the black community. Okay, remember, it was people like LeBron James who went out and said that every day black people walk out of their houses in fear that they're going to be hunted. It was Colin Kaepernick that said that every day in America, black people are hunted down by white racist police officers. The summer of 2020, with BLM and the George Floyd protests, and going all the way back to Hands Up, Don't Shoot, and all of this has been, these narratives are pushed into the faces ad nauseum. Every single case you hear about of a black person, even in any way, shape, or form, harmed or killed by a white person, the media runs with it. It goes viral. But the statistics say that when it's crime committed between races, because most crime is committed black on black and white on white and Asian on Asian, like most crime is committed homogeneously. But in the cases where crime is committed and it's done across the races, it's done so in an overwhelming majority of the recorded cases of black perpetrators to white victims in our current time. This wasn't always the case, but it is overwhelmingly the case now. But that isn't ever reported, and it doesn't fit the narrative. And I've asked several several African Americans that I've come in contact with during the BLM protests, and I asked them, how many black people do you think per year, unarmed black people, are killed by white racist cops on an annual basis? And they repeatedly, no one ever said less than 1,000. And when they do national surveys, or when they do like the man on the street interviews, it's always numbers that are so high, and total numbers are less than 40 people, and white, black, whoever, are unarmed people are killed by cops on an annual basis, and the majority of those are white. So like, black people literally have nothing to fear on a day-to-day basis, getting up, going out of their house, going to work, going to school, going to church, going to get something to eat, doing stuff with friends, doing stuff with family. They literally have nothing to fear. Keep your registration on your car up to date. Make sure your driver's license is not expired. Make sure it's renewed. Follow the driving laws of your city. And yeah, when anybody gets pulled over, just do what the cop tells you to do. You're never going to be able to, in the case you come up against a racist cop, you're never going to be able to litigate that out while it's happening. So bide your time, remember clear-headedly what it is, and then live to fight in court when you sue a police department or a sheriff's office or a government agency because you were treated racially, or racistly rather. Let's go back to the phone lines, the Table Cafe phone lines, and let's go to Phil, the Cajun whistleblower. Philip, what's going on, brother?
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, I called in to give you all something to talk about. Good morning, brother and sister pro-life, parents, patriots, police, military, cowboys and cowgirls, and whistleblowing buccaneers. Right now, at this rare moment, the CIA, the invasion agency, the FBI, the fascist only invaders, and the Nazi IRS Department of Justice have been ordered to attack and mutilate and destroy all forms of American jobs, businesses, homes, properties, our children, and even America's unborn. Dismiss, defund, and dismantle the CIA, FBI, and the Nazi IRS Department of Justice. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful workers of darkness. Do not buy, sell, or trade with the servants of Satan. Wake up, America. Pray, unite. Wake up. Let's stop this madness before it's too late. Amen.
Thank you, Philip. A couple of quick things before we get out of here today. Pastor Tim Keller, very influential Presbyterian church in America minister, actually founded a network of evangelical Christian churches in New York City, has died. Tim Keller was 72 years old. He's known for his brainy and winsome approach to evangelism. He founded Redeemer Presbyterian Church in Manhattan in 1989, grew the congregation to a hub for a network of churches across the city. He's got a 2008 book I remember I read called The Reason for God, Belief in an Age of Skepticism. That book hit a New York Times bestseller list and has sold more than 3 million copies. He'd been under treatment for pancreatic cancer going back to June of 2020. And on Thursday, Keller's son, Michael, posted a message that his father had been released from the hospital and would receive hospice care at home. Bruce Terrell, a leader of the Redeemer Leadership Network, wrote in an email announcing Keller's death. He said, "It is with heavy heart that I write today to inform you that Redeemer Presbyterian Church founder and longtime senior pastor Tim Keller passed away this morning at age 72, trusting in the sure and certain hope of the resurrection. We are forever grateful for his leadership, heart, and dedication to sharing the love of Christ with others. We will miss his presence here. We know he is rejoicing with his Savior in heaven." Also, Jim Brown, the famous running back and civil rights activist, I think was 87, has also passed away. He passed away, I believe, yesterday. So the passing of a couple of pretty big, events. And interesting that right now the Vatican is investigating an extraordinary event that allegedly took place during a mass at a Roman Catholic church in Thomaston back in March. Thomaston is a city in Connecticut. Reverend Joseph Crowley, the head of St. Maximilian Kolbe Parish, was leading Mass at St. Thomas Church in Thomaston when he reported the wafers distributed during communion multiplied inside the ciborium, which is the container used to hold the wafers, also referred to as communion host. God duplicated himself in this moment. Very powerful, very awesome, very real, very shocking, but also it happens, Crowley said. A parishioner who was assisting with distributing the communion wafers allegedly reported that there was a shortage of host. However, they then found that there were plenty of wafers remaining. Now, the alleged event is being investigated as a possible miracle by the Vatican. So, a couple of interesting little things, little tidbits of things that happened over the last several years, or last several days rather. That'll do it for us, folks. Remember to oppose progressivism wherever it rears its ugly head. Illuminate the light of truth. We'll see you next time.